Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World Daily with me, John Jordan. Look, today we're looking at Blankos. Blankos Block Party is currently in what they're calling private beta. It's going into open beta fairly soon. But there's one very specific element of the game which I think is interesting and worth touching on. Most of the games that we cover, and most of the actually, in fact, the games with an element of the blockchain, use what we call public blockchain. So that's a blockchain like Ethereum, or EOS or Tron or whatever kind of blockchain happens to be, runs a smart contract, and they are what we call public blockchain. So the point of a public blockchain is everyone can see all the data. Anyone can deploy a smart contract on that blockchain, assuming they have the technical know-how. There's no permissions involved. So basically, everything happens in a what we might think of philosophically, at least, as a fully decentralized way. Everyone can do what they want on it. There's no gatekeepers, and that's all kind of hunky dory. And that's quite useful for us in the industry who are kind of looking on, because we can kind of see, we can get data and metrics around what's going on. We don't have to ask the developer how many people are using their game. We can just look on a block explorer or similar kind of technology, and we can see how many wallets have interacted with the smart contract and how much value has been put in. So that's pretty valuable. Certainly, I found that valuable. Now, with Blankos Block Party, something different is happening here. Blankos Block Party is actually running on a version of the EOS blockchain. So there's a technology called the EOS IO SDK. SDK just means software development kit. And basically what you can do is you can take the EOS code and you can run it on your own set of validators. But you can run that in a private way. You could run it in a public way. So the WAX blockchain uses the EOS IO SDK and runs on an open blockchain that you can see public. Blankos has built its own blockchain based on EOS, but it's a private blockchain. So there's reasons why you might want to do that, particularly in terms of onboarding. So onboarding is just getting people into your game or your DApp. And if you use the standalone kind of EOS or Ethereum or something like that, then obviously users are having pretty much to create their own kind of wallets. There are ways you can kind of help in that respect and help to onboard them. But if you want to get a really seamless sort of experience, which is what they want for Blankos and what they want for a similar sort of games that they're launching, is they want like a more tightly controlled platform, which means they can have control of how people are onboarded, how they control their private keys, which is the way you would interact and actually hold your blockchain tokens and items. Obviously, in the Bitcoin space, there's very strongly, if you don't own your crypto, if you don't own your private keys, I mean, that's a very strong tradition in blockchain. As we go more towards mainstream, most people, I would argue, are not capable of being able to handle private keys. And obviously, if you lose your private keys, you lose access to all your stuff, maybe billions of dollars of Bitcoin. If you lose your private key, gone. That's not very helpful for most of us. So I can understand the design decisions. Cool. That Blankos has made. It's made this private blockchain for very specific reasons, because it wants to particularly have this good onboarding process. And you just onboard to Blankos with an email and a password. We've not really seen fully how they're going to roll out the wallet side of things. But I believe you can probably get access to your private keys, but the game's not launched yet, so that may be a little bit down the line. But most important thing is that it's a private blockchain, which means we can't see any of the data. And I think that has repercussions for the way the game presents itself. So this is currently, these are the only NFTs that you can buy at the moment. So you're basically, because it's kind of what we're calling a founder sale, so the game's not officially live yet. There's no trading between players yet, but you can buy these NFTs. So in this case, you get the boss NFT character, and then you get these accessories, and you get some of the Blankos bucks, which is the cryptocurrency that runs on their version of EOS. Now, what was interesting is when these things launched, there was we were told there was a limited number of them, and they would only be available for a limited time, but we weren't given any detail on that. So now the developer Mythical Games has announced that. So they will be running, or we can see here what max supply is. So max supply means how many of these packs are around. So only 3,500 of these boss packs. and they're going to be on sale until I think it's the 7th of December. So there's a certain period of time, or maybe 13th, I can't remember the exact date. What kind of matters is if there's a certain period of time, then you can't buy these packs anymore, and any unsold unsold items, any unsold packs will be burnt, which basically just means they'll be no longer available. They'll be sent to a blockchain address where no one can get them anymore. So it's a kind of a way of kind of guaranteeing scarcity, I suppose. But what's interesting is that we didn't have this information at the beginning. I think if this game was running on a public blockchain, we would probably have had these max supply details from the off. I was very surprised that they didn't have this max supply, because you can have a limited supply. It could be 10 or it could be 1 million or 21 billion bitcoins. The fact you've got a maximum supply is meaningless unless you know what the maximum supply is. So I think that Mythical Games kind of missed a beat on that one, because I presume they knew what the maximum supply was, that they've not been changing it. I mean, maybe they were, but it would seem odd to me to do that. And kind of more important than that, even than the max supply, is we can now see they've got this little not really a warning, but a kind of notification saying there's less than 25% of these left. So you kind of do the maths, I suppose, and you can work. I mean, you can roughly see there's probably what are we saying, less than 750 left, something like that. But less than 25% left isn't actually very helpful. In most other blockchain games, it would say precisely what the supply was and precisely how many have been sold. And obviously, because it's if you're doing this on Ethereum, you'd be on a public blockchain, and everyone will be able to track that. And in fact, probably the data will be drawing off the fact that you can track directly from the Ethereum blockchain. And that kind of level of transparency is to some degree minor, I think. And particularly as we look to take blockchain games mass market, then obviously we're going mass market. Mass market people don't care about blockchains, don't know about blockchains, and are quite trusting of game developers saying there's 3,500, which even at the moment we can't check this is the case. We're just taking their view on that, and maybe for normal gamers, not normal gamers, that's wrong, but non-blockchain people, the fact that it says less than 25% left is enough. I think having spent 2 years in the blockchain game space, this for me is not enough. I want to know exactly how many are left, and I probably want to have some transparency around max supply. I mean, I know some of the people at Mythical Games. I've no reason not to trust them, but that's not a reason to trust them, I suppose. And it's kind of interesting again that we kind of see this. So these are the 4 packs that are available, and we can see there's less than 25% left of the most expensive, and now we've got this less than 50% left of the second most expensive. But here it's not showing anything. Now I think what they're doing here is they're trying to obviously drive retail kind of FOMO around what's going on here. But I can kind of see why sometimes it's too much information in a normal kind of pre-sale where it has exactly kind of what's left. So I can see there may even be some game theory thinking around not showing precise numbers. But obviously, it looks like what they're planning to do here is their system is they put up an alert when there's less than 50% left, and they put up an alert when there's less than 25% left, and maybe they put up an alert when there's less than 10% left. So maybe there's an automated system that we kind of have to trust is doing that, and maybe that's enough information for people. But it's kind of, to me, it just kind of gut feeling, it feels slightly unsatisfactory, because there could be 49% left, or if we assume it's going to, when there's less than 25% left, this is going to change. There could be anything between 49% to 26%. I mean, that's quite a big range, and it doesn't really help you very much to make those decisions. And I kind of think this is a very minor point, but I kind of think this is interesting that my personal belief is if this was running on a public blockchain, they would not be doing this. And I don't necessarily think in this case they're doing this to make it better for players and create a better user experience. I kind of think they're doing it because they're running on a private blockchain. And I kind of think, I'm sure in a year's time I'll look back at this video and laugh at my own kind of idiosyncrasies that I want to know all this data. And I think it's partly because we've sat so long in the blockchain space where there's so much data, you can just see exactly what's going on all the time. And as blockchain, that's not the point of blockchain. The blockchain is to allow people to own things. But I do kind of think this is more difficult when you are running on a private blockchain and you're relying on a kind of gate on a centralized kind of organisation to feed you this data. Now, maybe even within the scale of a private blockchain, there are things that could be made public. So I guess you could have a mixture of potentially, I don't know, technically I don't know if you could do that, but that may be the case for certain things. You could have APIs or something like that. Obviously, you have that in the non-blockchain space. But it will be interesting, I think, to see, because I think for what we've seen in the blockchain game space, or games like Axie Infinity, where you can immediately see how many of these axes are there, you can immediately see what they're selling for, or what they sold for, what their bids for. That I think is something that openness has attracted some of these people with very large crypto value, kind of the crypto whales, has attracted them because they can kind of see what's going on, they can get a feel for what's going on. I think as soon as you take that sort of layer off, even if you are even presenting the information to some degree, I think you're taking a lot of the dynamic out of that system. So I don't really think the people who are spending $100,000 on Ethereum NFTs or Axie Infinity NFTs are necessarily going to be attracted by this. Now, that might not be a bad thing. This is, it's definitely not the crew that the audience that Mythical Games are trying to attract with here. Here they're trying to attract people who own, just gamers, people who own consoles. Although this is only on PC at the moment, it is coming to consoles. So I think there's a very different audience, and given they've raised $35 million and released dozens of very big games, I'm sure they know more about it than me. But this did just strike me in an odd way, and it'd be interesting, I think, to see how that. I think it is a dilemma, and I think how that plays out, I think, will be interesting to see. And obviously, different games will take different approaches to that. Anyway, that was all I had to say today, apart from the ability not to say design. I don't quite know. My brain is locking. Thanks for watching this video. The channel is all about blockchain games, so if you're interested in that, please do subscribe. But thanks for watching, and hope to see you again soon.